Humankind cannot gain anything without first giving something in return. That is Fullmetal Alchemist's first law of equivalent exchange. In those days, we truly believed that to be the world's one and only good anime. Okay, all right, anyway, so I just recently went back and I watched all of the 2 Fullmetal Alchemist anime series. I had not watched them in many years because Fullmetal Alchemist was the one and only franchise I've ever been invested in where I legitimately let the fan base, quote-unquote, ruin it for me. To give a little bit of history on this, so many moons ago, this would have been like 2003, 4 or so, even by 5, so that like period of like 2 or 3 years or so, Fullmetal Alchemist was the shit. It was like the biggest thing in the goddamn world. Everybody was just absolutely salivating over it. For good reason, because there really wasn't anything else like it. The animation was gorgeous. The story was very unique and original. The performances in the English dub that we were getting at the time was amazing. Obviously, on the internet, it was getting to be big in the fan sub circuit and everything. So it was a really massive deal. And I was right there in the throes of that hype, I guess you could say. So I was a big fan, and it was a big influence at the time. In fact, I would even wager to say there's some influence on certain characters in Tome by certain characters from Fullmetal Alchemist. In particular, Major Alex Louise Armstrong is certainly a big influence on Nihilok, one of many, And more so than him, actually, I would say Roy Mustang and Riza Hawkeye very much influenced the conversations between Zeto and Kizuna, respectively, right down to Kizuna being a sharpshooter. So that was certainly something, and there's probably other examples too. But that was kind of right when TTA was the first big thing I was investing myself into, and FMA was the big show that I was watching. So it was a really massive deal, and I guess I should also mention beforehand that I'm going to go into a lot of spoilers about both the 2003 Fullmetal Alchemist series and then also Brotherhood. So if you don't want to be spoiled, I would recommend that you go watch these shows yourself. They're both available. You can go buy them, and you should definitely check them out because they're both fantastic. I'll get into it. But either way, there's going to be spoilers, is my point. So keep that in mind. Anyway, okay. So I was becoming aware towards the end of the show's run that, just kind of murmurs from fans who were a little bit more hardcore about the franchise overall than I and probably most people just watching it on Adult Swim at the time were that the anime series was taking a very, very different turn compared to where the manga was. And I don't believe that at the time the manga was being published in America yet. I don't know if it was until like after the 2003 series was over, but either way, I wasn't aware of the fact that, for those of you who don't know the whole deal with that, basically Aniplex was producing the first series in 2003, and they knew pretty early on that they weren't going to be able to adapt everything from the manga because they were going to catch up too quickly to it. So I believe Hiromu Arakawa herself, the author, said, well, you guys can come up with your own thing. I think that was how it went. Please, everybody in the comments, feel free to correct me because for those details that I'm missing. But that was the long and short of it. So after a certain point in time, they decided to start changing the story and, changing a lot of the characters and adding a lot of their own characters and things, and then having the story kind of go off into its own, completely unique direction compared to where the manga was going. And in fact, there's actually seeds of that pretty early on in certain other episodes with the inclusion of, in particular, there was a character named Juliet Douglas, who it turns out to later be the 2003's version of the sloth homunculus, who is created from the boy's parents. So I didn't realize until rewatching it again recently that like that early on the seeds of their own version of the story were kind of being planted. So what I tried to do this time around was I wanted to kind of watch them, both the 2003 series and then the Brotherhood series, which for those of you who don't know was the anime staff. I don't know if it was I think it might have been a different one compared to the 2003 one, but doing a new series that would specifically cover the stuff that was not done in the manga before. And the first like 13 or so episodes are like kind of like a consolidated version of the events that happen in the first like 30 or so episodes of Fullmetal Alchemist, give or take. So what I wanted to try to do was to watch them side by side, and then eventually, split off and do them individually. So that's what I did. I got up to that sort of cutoff point of when the changes were happening, and then I finished the 2003 show and stopped, and then watched Brotherhood. And this was the first time that I was also seeing Brotherhood in English, because I had seen bits and pieces of it when it was airing on Adult Swim, and the dub is as fantastic as it was in the previous one, but because I had seen it so like soon already, because Funimation was not simulcasting it, but they were streaming the subbed episodes like I think 2 or 3 days later after they would air in Japan. So it was just a little too fresh in my mind, and I'm like, I'll come back to it later. And so time happened, time passed, and I healed from my aggravation with people from when I was doing the. When I was having to suffer through the more annoying side of the FMA fan base around the time of the 2003 series. And, I remember a lot of the hardcore fans that were telling me, like, oh, the manga story is so much better, and, like, the anime gets really stupid after a while. At the time, I was like, I'm sure the manga story is good, too, but I do like what's in the show, and that was, I'm sure, what probably everybody thought. And especially when Brotherhood was first airing, and I was giving it the benefit of the doubt, because a lot of people I remember at the time were like, they ruined it because the first 13 episodes are so dumb. And it's like, look, they're trying to get to the new stuff as quickly as possible. They've already done the stuff with Nina and Lior and, Yoki and whatever. They've done all this already. They're trying to get to the new stuff. That's the whole point of this. So it was aggravating to me that some people wouldn't even give Brotherhood a shot just because of the first few episodes or whatever, so... But whatever. So, but either way, my perception of the 2003 show was like, but it was still cool. I liked it for what it was, coupled with the Conqueror of Shambhala movie, which was kind of the ending to where the show had left off, where the 2003 series had left off. So, rewatching them both again now that I've given you 20 years of history on that, what did I think? Man, did the 2003 show get really stupid after a while. Like, again, having the objectiveness to look back on it now and judge it fairly, especially stacked up to what the original creator's, story was supposed to be. My God. Like, okay, so it had some interesting ideas. Their versions of the other three homunculus that were different, like their version of Pride was the Fuhrer instead of Wrath. Their Wrath was the little boy, and then their Sloth was the mother. Some of those characters like had some interesting kind of arcs to them, and the direction that they took some of the other ones with them, I guess, as well. What else? The whole Lyra/Dante and Hohenheim thing was like kind of an interesting idea. They were all interesting ideas. And then, except for, okay, there's the big spoiler of the 2003 show, if you haven't seen it, what's behind the Gate of Truth is our world. It's like, oh, okay. And then we do this movie about how they go to Nazi Germany and fucking Dietland Eckhart and, oh, God, like, what the fuck? Like, and it's beautiful. Okay, Conqueror of Shambhala in particular, I remember, I think it was at Otakon with a bunch of people, and we went to go see the screening of it that weekend, and they had, like, all the director and the voice actors and everything there, and it was a big thing, and we really liked it. And fucking looking back on it now, it's like, this is so stupid. It's so, like, there's good ideas, but it's like, again, it's so, like, poorly and ridiculously executed, and we've reached 10 minutes, so that would be halfway through a Full Metal Alchemist episode, so, excuse me. Full Metal Alchemist. Full Metal Alchemist. Okay, we're back. Anyway, so sorry, I had to do that. I couldn't help it. Anyway, so the other thing that I really didn't like about the 2003 series too, just before I move on to Brotherhood's thoughts, like FMA in general, the story and its themes, especially with the bit about like the Philosopher's Stone is made of humans and you know, entire races and cities were sacrificed for it, you know. It's got some dark shit in it. Like, of course, you know, and characters die, and you know, it's heavy. It can get really heavy at points. But the 2003 show got like heavy-handed and dark in places that were just like not working in its favor. Like I again, looking back on it, because I don't know, the manga, again, just the franchise in general, it had a really like great mix of like being able to be lighthearted and have some comedy moments, you know, some kind of typical anime stuff where they're like freaking out and the crazy expressions and the chibi kind of stuff or whatever, you know, but still being able to be taken seriously and to take itself seriously. And I don't know, like the later half of the 2003 series, it like its funny moments start to feel very like out of place and even forced at times, and then the dark stuff that happens is just like way too dark. It's like this character was implied to have probably been raped. This character murders a baby to open the gate. This character kills himself to do this. It's like, Jesus Christ. Like, you know, it's not necessary. I mean, like, I don't know. The story is like semi-interesting. I mean, it had to have been to keep people's attention, but you look at it, like, again, it's like, God, what the fuck were you guys like thinking? Like, what were they thinking? I guess AVGM for you. Yeah, it's very strange. I don't know. And so let me transition out of that awkwardly into Brotherhood. Okay. So, and I think that watching like the first like, you know, 20 or whatever of the 2003 show, where they had the, you know, the good straighter adaptations of the you know, the stuff from the manga, you know, the just episodes that were flat out adaptations of particular chapters, that stuff was great. And that's not to say that the later versions of the Brotherhood stuff were bad. It's just, you know, you have to keep in mind, it's like, all right, they want to get to the new stuff as quickly as possible. They can get to that in only about 13 episodes, you know. It's like, because it would just be weird if they just switched it. And now here's where the characters from Shin come in, just out of nowhere, like start a new show like that. It just wouldn't make any sense. So I don't, you know, just being fair, I don't mind the first 13 or so where they're just kind of speeding through the stuff that they already covered. It's fine, it's whatever. And it's worth it, because when they get to the new stuff, those later parts of the story that are adapted from the manga are just so imaginative and great, and have so many like better character moments than what the Aniplex staff came up with for the 2003 series, like genuine ones that, and you know, I mean, I guess it's hard not to have the bias of this is what the creator came up with, but like, I don't know, just like really trying to look at it and be fair and compare it, I just really feel like what they did later, what Arakawa did later, really, with the story, you know, after Izumi comes in and she reteaches the boys the lesson that they learned on the island, because that's about where the series was splitting off in terms of the 2003 one story. And, you know, and especially like the new characters and the new locations they go to are so, like, they're so great. Like Shing and Drachma and all these places that are like kind of like an fantasy equivalent of like, of China or Russia, you know, and then like Ling is great, and Second Greed, and Lanfan and Fu and Mei Chang and all them. All the Shang characters are great. Olivier is awesome, and then her crew, all the you know, Buccaneer and Miles and all them from the Briggs wall and everything. The you know, intended version of Pride, Salim, is creepy as shit, and he's like awesome. You know, Führer is still great as he is, you know, even if he's Wrath instead of being Pride. You know, Sloth, I think that, I'll say this, I'll give this credit to it. No, and this isn't also to say that the Brotherhood / original Sloth was bad. I did like the 2003's version of Sloth. I did think that was interesting. I liked the concept of her, but I did not like the execution of, we have to kill our mom and overcome this hardship. The biggest payoff, though, above all else, the journey is great. Mike McFarlane, the director, I think likened the last 13 or so episodes of Brotherhood as like the equivalent of Return of the Kings, where everybody ever fight each other in big, massive, climactic. It's amazing. The ending is what made it worth it, because first of all, compared to and then they go to fucking Munich. And Ed and Al promise each other with the idea of equivalent exchange, and then they leave, and then Winry gets completely fucked over and doesn't get anything, and then they just go and they ride off into the sunset with alternate universe Scar and Lust, and it's like, this is bullshit, and side note, by the way, The Sacred Star of Milos, which isn't the ending to your Brotherhood, just a little side story, really like that film. Also gorgeous animation and just another fun little story with some interesting stuff. I don't know if Arakawa was involved in the creation of that movie, but I did enjoy that, the Brotherhood movie, so check that out too. But the ending to Brotherhood just made it so much more worth it for the entire length of the journey, for 64 episodes of and technically more than that. It's technically 52 plus 64, that many episodes of watching everything and the movie and in both movies. It's like, that's a lot of content, and Arakawa's intended ending, I think, is what really sells it. And so that's the one thing that I won't spoil, just in case you haven't gotten to the end of it yet. I really wholly recommend you check it out. And you know what? Check out both. Be objective. Formulate your own opinion. Tell me in the comments below, on that note, what are your memories and recollections of Full Metal Alchemist back in the day? Were you just a casual watcher? Were you at the convention screeching like a fangirl at VIX panels? Could you not give a shit either way? I don't know. Let me know. Did you prefer the 2003 series, knowing full well that Brotherhood is the original manga story? Did you enjoy Brotherhood that much more for that reason? Tell me. I want to know. Can you show me? I want to know about the strangers like me. In the comments below. And also, if you have ideas for future Curblog topics, tell me in the comments as well, or hit me up on Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, whatever you feel like. I think the next one, because by the time this one comes out, the new Sailor Moon dub from Viz will have premiered, featuring a couple cast members from Tome, by the way. So I will be watching that, and I will probably be doing a Curblog about my experiences with Sailor Moon. So I will probably be doing that next week. Look forward to it, unless I think of something else, and who knows, maybe I'll prolong it, but... expect that at some point, and feel free to recommend more topics in the meantime. Anywho, that'll do it for me. Thank you. I'm gonna get your real body back. Oh no, a human transmuted. Fuck.